Welcome to Spiritual Stories, the podcast where the unseen becomes seen. I'm your host, Kim Ibrink Jansen, psychic medium, spiritual advisor. Each episode, I sit down with gifted intuitives, psychics, healers, and everyday people who've lived through something extraordinary. This is their stories. I'd like to welcome Kushla Skinner. She's the talent behind Channeling with Kush. She's got more than 14 years experience sharing her unique healing practices, workshops, guided meditations, and channeled information with connection to universal consciousness for healing, self-discovery, and personal growth for people right across Australia. Kushla is also the creator of Sacred Symbols of the Stars, an original system of 24 channeled sacred geometry symbols. I was wondering how I was going to say that really quickly. Designed to help people explore suppressed trauma, subconscious patterns, consciousness, and the journey back to their authentic self. Oh my God, aren't we lucky to speak to you today? What an amazing person
Likewise.
to speak to. So excited to talk to you. I have to share a little bit of a story about how we know each other because we've only just recently connected. However, we have both lived in the same areas over the last probably 15 years.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm from the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, but Kushla is actually from Perth. And what happened is while I was over in on the Sunshine Coast, she was also living over there, literally in the same suburb, which we never knew each other. We actually have the same friends, similar circles, everything else, but we never met. And then I've moved back here. I think you were over there for a little bit longer, and then you moved back to my suburb, Secret Harbour. Again, we never met or anything like that. And then just after I don't know, we connected online, and you just left Secret Harbour, so we still have not met in person.
No, I added you the weekend I was leaving Secret Harbour to move to Wanana. So yeah, it was literally what she's posting at Secret Harbour Beach.
It's so crazy, and we kind of make well. This is the first time we've even spoke to each other. This is very very exciting. But yeah, the universe must be setting something up, without even us having to meet each other. It's so crazy, so crazy.
Definitely.
So thank you for being here, and I'm really, really excited to hear some of your stories, particularly because you've been doing this probably as long as I have. We've both been doing our work for as long as we've been doing it, and we have really interesting experiences along the way. I would love to hear from you a couple of your spiritual stories that will blow our minds. I know when we have these experiences, they blow our minds, and we're like, "Oh my God, I got to tell someone." And this is pretty much one of the main reasons why I have this podcast is because like there's so much cool shit that happens, and you got to share it and share
Yeah,
these
I was
stories.
immediately drawn to it when I saw your other videos. I was like, this is so cool. I love this because, yeah, a lot of the time you don't get to share all those stories with everyone. But yeah, it's something that me and my husband love talking about. We've had a lot since we've
Oh,
been together and also individually as well. So yeah, it's really cool.
I think a lot of people also don't really understand, like when you're in your day to day with family and friends. I mean, you're lucky that you can speak to your husband about some of the things that you experience. But most cases, a lot of people who are in this industry kind of keep to themselves because they don't really have a lot of people around them that do understand, like some of the things that you experience. So this is again another a nice platform for us to chat about because we get each other,
Yeah.
right? We have never even met. But just really, really cool platform to be able to share some of the really awesome things that we experience so that I really want to make these stories quite mainstream that more people experience awesome stuff. So
Yeah, I love it.
tell me one story in particular that stands out for you that we can get started with.
Well, just from our conversation just now, I grew up in quite a spiritual family. I'm one of seven kids. My mum is very, very psychic, but someone who
Oh,
would never say that to people, is not interested in it. She just used it to keep an eye on her kids. You couldn't keep anything from her. We used to joke that she was a white witch because she was always onto it if you tried to sneak anything by her. But I was lucky. My older siblings, there's lots of psychics in my family, but everyone kind of expresses themselves a bit differently. And my older sister, Tanya, uh, is 9 years older. So she was already out there doing things, experiencing things. And then we would have these epic conversations when I was a teenager. And so that's how I learned about like astro traveling and things like that, which I experienced when I was younger. And I had some experiences when I first stayed over a boy's house and hadn't really eaten very much for dinner. And so I went to bed in his room, and it was pitch black in the room. But I remember kind of waking up at some point, and it felt like my eyes were sealed shut, but I could clearly see all around the room. I could see the cupboard, could see the bed, the door, everything. But I was very, very aware of my eyes were completely closed, but I almost felt like I was trying to yank them open. And I told my sister about it when we had one of our little catch-ups, and she said, "Oh, that's like astro traveling." And I was like, "Yeah, it was really weird. The room was pitch black, and yet I could see all throughout the room in that moment when the astro traveling was happening." Had an even weirder experience than that one. Sometime later, so I'm still in high school. I'm asleep in bed, and I hear this kind of shuffling on the carpet, almost as if you heard someone dragging their feet on the carpet. It woke me up. And at the foot of my bed was my bedroom door, which was shut. And I could see my sister Siobhan, who had her head down like this at the foot of my bed. And I looked up and I was like, "What are you doing?" And then she kind of looked up at me. And then I was like, "Hang on a second, I can see right through her." And then in that moment, she disappeared. And we had a chat about it later on. And I realized that at the foot of my bed was my stereo, my old, cassette tapes. And I'd nicked one of hers out of her bedroom. And so she'd come astro traveling into the room at nighttime looking for her cassette tapes, which were
No.
right at the foot of my bed. And yeah, that's one of my earliest memories of like seeing, I don't know if you would even call that spirit, someone's spirit. But yeah, she was astro traveling, but I actually physically saw her in my bedroom at the foot of the bed.
I've actually heard of stories like that where, I mean, there is that special astral traveling books and things like that, which are really cool. But I've heard that they can actually meet up. Like you can go to people's houses around the world and go like astral travel to all the different houses. The thing is that the time tends to be different because the time on the other in the other realm is different to this
Oh
time.
yeah.
So
Yeah. I
so
mean, I
when
don't know too much about astro traveling, but I remember my sister Tanya telling me that she used to go spy on a guy that she was dating at the time, not intentionally, but she
yeah,
found
yeah, yeah.
herself at his property, kind of having a bit of a look around because she was suspicious of some stuff that was going on. So, but
But this is the thing, and I think in the future it's just going to be quite normal. Like I know that we all talk about privacy and all that sort of thing, but once we all get more connected with this other side of ourselves, everyone will be able to get access to everyone. There's technically no such thing as privacy. Once people get access,
I
like
mean,
people
that's
can,
already happening, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and didn't they do that back in the oh, correct me if I'm wrong, back in Russia or something, back in, or even America,
Yeah,
where they
it was
did,
like the 50s or something. They were
yeah, they
getting
actually did a
people to do it.
program.
Yeah, to spy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I haven't had many astro traveling experiences, but I would say that possibly the person who's doing it would have to vibrate at a certain level to be able to do it. And then you would think that their kind of
yeah,
ethics and morals would not be doing it, intentionally or to cause harm or,
yeah,
like to spy on people or whatever. That's my personal experience anyway. But
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
can't say that I've had one of the astro traveling things since I was a teenager.
yeah. Wow, that's incredible. And I think you've got astral traveling, but then you've also got remote viewing, which is different again, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
where again, that's part of that spying element where remote view what's happening in certain places
Yeah.
and get
I think
information.
that's more of like a conscious awareness thing, isn't it? Like you're
Yeah.
intentionally doing it. Whereas for me, the astral traveling stuff that I experienced was at nighttime, like during sleep periods. It wasn't something that I was consciously doing. It was, I
Mm.
think it was because my mind was still hyper aware because I'd gone to bed without eating very much. It's my first boyfriend's house. And so I was trying to be polite, not eat very much. So I went to bed hungry. And I think that's what brought it on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe that's a sign also that food keeps us low vibration.
Yeah. Or grounded. We'll say
Nice.
grounded.
Granted. Let's just say
Yeah.
that. I was going to say something else, but it's gone out of my head, so it mustn't be important. No, there was actually something really cool, but it'll come back if we need to talk about that. So I love your work sounds so interesting, and I think that especially around the power of meditation and things like that, you've got some stories around meditations.
I do. Gosh, I've now gone completely blank as well. Um, yes, I do. The Quiet Cone. So there used to be a place in Perth in the hills called the Quiet Cone. It was this really cool teepee where they did gonging inside, but it was completely sealed in. And me and my husband had only just started dating when we went there. Prior to me meeting him, about 2 weeks beforehand, I kept sensing a ring on my finger, like an energetic ring. And I just remember thinking, oh, it's really weird. It's almost like I've got a ring on my wedding finger. And then me and him end up getting together. And within a couple of weeks, we go to the Quiet Cone for like a meditation event. And we lay down, and it's all, darkened room. And they start doing the gonging, and we start going into a meditative process. And so I'm laying there waiting to do the meditation. I'm waiting to, drift off and see something wonderful. And instead, I keep seeing this wedding ring. And it was almost like this the wedding ring. And I was like, what? Why am I seeing a ring? Oh, wedding ring. Okay, yep, cool. And it was like, no, the wedding ring, you're going to marry him. And it
Ah,
wasn't until I acknowledged, oh, this is the guy I'm going to marry. And then in that moment, okay, that's when the ring disappeared. And I was like, okay, now I can finally meditate. But also in that moment, I reached out to him and he was laying next to me and I held his hand. And he told me after we finished the gonging session and the meditation, he said that he was having his own spiritual experience where he was connecting with his auntie who passed away shortly before we got together. And she had come through to communicate with him, and he was introducing me to her, telling her,
oh,
this is the girl I'm going to marry. And in that exact moment, I reached out and held his hand, and he said, oh, here she is, and like introduced us. Oh, I'm getting goosies all over talking about that. So
wow.
yeah, that was one of the cool things that happened at the beginning of our
Oh
relationship.
God. And isn't it so interesting? Again, like we come into this life like thinking we have to plan and organize everything, but the best things that happen are when they're not planned.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what I was going to say about the astral traveling is that again, like most of the things that happen like in our sleep, we don't really understand like what we where we're going, what we're doing because it's not planned.
No, I'd love to know more about it for sure. I have some
Was
very,
your, was it very much like a dream or did it was it very different
what the experience of the quiet cone.
with the
Um,
astral traveling?
Oh, the astro traveling. Um, yeah, I guess the astro traveling, when I woke up in the bed at my first boyfriend's house, it was almost like waking up from a dream. But then that's when I had the sensation of, oh no, my eyes are closed. And then I
Mhm.
was kind of like remembering the moments of when I'd fallen asleep. The room was pitch black. And I was kind of inquiring like how come I can see everything? It wasn't like the lights were on, but there was an illumination in the room where I could see details of the door at the foot of the bed, the cupboard door, sorry. I could see, details in the room, and I'm questioning that in that moment, just going, hang on a second, I couldn't see this when I fell asleep. So yes, in that moment, it was almost like waking up from a dream. And again, actually, when I saw my sister at the foot of the bed, it was from me waking up, but it was waking up into reality. And
Mm.
I could see her like an apparition, which
Yeah.
I have seen many apparitions over the years. Normally not very good ones, but in that particular instance, yeah, I saw my sister, but it took a moment for my brain to kick in. Actually, I can see right through her that she's not
Mm.
actually standing there. So
Mm.
that one was a bit different.
What do you mean by not very good ones that you've seen?
Oh, I would call it something along the lines of kind of like seeing between the a veil. So for me, like a repressed past
Okay.
and oh, it's hard to explain. Kind of like I'm doing just like a normal activity, and then I become aware of like a presence in the room, or but it's a memory. It's not like
Oh,
it's not a spirit as such. It's not something where I'm tuning into something. It's like
mm,
something bleeding through from the past that I wasn't aware of that was suppressed. And then in that moment, I'm aware of a presence of a person standing there. And then I become filled with emotions and energy that was connected to a time when that particular thing was happening. It's happened multiple times. It happened when I got together with my husband, a lot of weird stuff was going on right from the beginning because I was finally in a relationship where I was being loved the right way. And so all of this stuff started going, oh, now that you're safe and now that you're with someone who's
mm,
going to love you unconditionally and this person's not going to go anywhere, here, here comes all of your stuff that you don't know about. So I would have very weird stuff going on, especially when I got in the shower. When my first child was born, I would have audio stuff going on where I could hear screaming going on, like screaming babies. And I would always get out and ask my husband, I'll be, oh, was he okay? He was crying a lot. And he's like, he's been asleep, or he didn't make a sound. But it happened over and over and over again each
mm.
time I would get in the shower because it was stuff coming through from somewhere else. And
Yeah.
it's very confusing. I didn't understand a lot of it. And yeah, that's part of what I've been delving into for the last 10 years, really, is understanding stuff that was kind of like locked behind a wall,
Yeah. Yeah.
another part of me, another part of my life that I was completely unaware of. So that's more so the apparitions that I've had more
Yeah. Yeah.
recently. But yeah, so they were more of the negative kind, really.
Mm. When you said that you've been looking at and studying, your understanding in a quick sentence, maybe, or quick conversation, what have you learned about that from your
About what,
understanding,
sorry?
from your
Oh,
studying of your
of
gift?
my parts. What have I learnt about it? Um, Well, like I said, since me and my husband got together, I had a lot of weird mystery symptoms and just bizarre things going on. And I never knew what it was. We went to Egypt in 2007. I became really ill while I was there. And then when I came back, I started channeling sacred geometry. I became very agoraphobic and kind of shut myself off from the world. I put on a lot of weight, had all this weird stuff going on with my body. That's also where the shower stuff came into it. There was just all this kind of weird stuff going on. And then the sacred geometry started coming through almost like something to soothe me, while I was stuck at home with nothing to do. It was like a psychic part of me had opened up and was connecting with something that made me feel better. And it was like a bit of a lifeline to help me get through this really horrible time where I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression. And yeah, I even remember laying in bed one night where it was just so horrible. I'm with this amazing person that I'm
Mm.
still with now. Life should be amazing, and yet there was so much else going on. Um, and I remember kind of speaking to my crew up there and going, you better make this easier for me or I'm out of here. And I know you've got a plan for me and I'm going to be gone. And so the sacred geometry started coming through. I would like tune into a person, normally a family member or a friend, and it was almost like a hologram of light. And I would be told how to draw, like how many centimeters, what direction, what kind of shape, a triangle, a square. And so I started channeling sacred geometry, and that's when it all started. And then when I moved to the Sunshine Coast, when my little boy was 1, that's when I began teaching Reiki, and which then progressed into the sacred symbols of the stars coming through, which yeah, there was, I would get the name of the symbol first, and then I would draw the geometry psychically, and then I would have apparitions connected to the symbols as well, where I would wake up and see something in my bedroom, like a veil of light coming down the wall with kind of like the flower of life on it, and it would be a particular color, and then that's what's actually in the background of all the images, all the colors, and the overall theme of the symbol is from the actual psychic visions that I saw as I was channeling the symbol. So yeah, and it would take about a month of integrating the symbol, and I would write down notes, kind of like a diary, and just my experience of that consciousness coming through and how it changed my life. And yeah, it ended up completely changing me as a person. So
I think that's something to acknowledge as a, well, as a psychic medium channel, all that sort of thing, is usually, I think, um, we're the ones who actually go through really tough times to then be able to be given the things to help you
yeah,
to
I
deal with
absolutely
those.
agree with that. Yeah. I
And
I don't think I've ever met someone that um like yourself. I connected with you because of the energy that you give off, the light in your face, and I felt drawn to your energy. I know nothing about you. It was just something that drew me to you. And there's the people that I've met over the years, the most amazing people, the sparkliest, the brightest, the most gifted, the most compassionate and loving. A lot of those people came to my workshops or I met them somehow. All of them have like these tragic backstories, a bit like the superheroes, they've all got a tragic backstory. But yeah, I don't know if the light attracts those kinds of negative people into your life, or if it's part of, our learning. But, through all of that toxic stuff that we go through, you have to grow and you have to find a way out. You either tap out or you grow. And through that growth, you then come up with these tools of like, oh, I got through that. I want to share that with someone else. That's why so many of us are teachers, or we want to show people a way to make life easier because we've done the hard work ourselves and we want to, usher other people. I figured out a shortcut, like don't stay there forever. There's a way out, and yeah, sometimes it's bloody hard though.
I think when you're going through it, like that's what I've noticed myself is when you are experiencing certain things, you feel like you've forgotten all your spiritual connections. You
Yep.
feel like you're in the depths of despair, all that sort of thing, and then all of a sudden a download will come through of try this, and then you do it and you go, oh my god, then you feel good again, and it's like I think now and having this conversation, it's kind of cool that we can now have the conscious awareness that when you're in a sticky, like a little, I call it glitchy time, you can go, oh, okay, I'm ready for another, let's just call it an upgrade, or, more
Yeah.
information's coming to help. And so if you look at the world and you look at, everyone who's struggling with mental health or emotions or things, it's like, they're also very gifted people, and if they had an awareness of the fact, and I'd love to share this with everyone, anyone who's listening, but also everyone else, is that if we're going through tricky times, we are literally, I mean, it's almost like the purpose of it is to allow yourself to know what it feels like, and then know what it feels like
Yeah.
afterwards when you get the information or you get the
Yeah.
download or whatever. And it's like, oh, that, and you always look back. I don't know about you, but I always look back and go, oh, that's why that happened. Right.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know,
at that point now where it's a bit nicer, where I can look back and go, oh, yes, I see the spiritual meaning of it all. But when I was in it, no, not
I think
fun at all.
that's a bigger topic, and
Yeah.
it's really important to share this with as many people as we can around things that we're struggling with, or that they're struggling with. Is that there is a purpose behind it somehow, and
Yeah.
there's so many things that we're all receiving, so many really cool tools and gifts that are
Yeah.
coming through to help not only us but others who are going through similar things. Because how often do you see, especially online, people are going through a lot of similar things?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that one of the things that people like us, I'm putting you in the same category. I'm not saying we're the same, but like whatever that is, that vibe, we are the only way we can get through it is if we're constantly looking for the purpose, looking for the meaning, looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, that was what got me through it. One day, I'm going to use all of this and I'm going to help someone else who feels as horrible as I do right now.
Yeah,
One day, this is all going to make sense and I'm
yeah.
going to come out the other side and I'm going to use this and it's going to change people's lives. And that's what I did. And I will do again, and I will do it even better this time because of how much I've learned and grown. And yeah,
I'm
like,
glad you have this conscious awareness, because I still go through stages where I'm like, like I just don't even remember until afterwards when I get
oh,
the
yeah.
information, and it's like do 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 do, and then I'm like different, and I'm like, oh, you're joking again.
Yeah. Well, I went through exactly what you said. I went through that despair when I hit rock bottom, and I literally thought that everything that I'd told people and created over the years was a load of crap because I felt so bad I couldn't help myself. And I
Mm,
literally threw away everything that I had because I thought that I was this massive fraud and I had this complete identity failure and almost like someone had pushed delete on my entire memory of who I was.
yeah.
And then, yeah, over the last 8 years, 9 years, I've had to remember and relearn and rebuild myself from scratch in order to get to a place where I can talk to you. I'm on camera. Hello, everybody. I'm here. I'm back because I've been isolating myself for a very long time because yeah, not everyone who is out there, doing spiritual work and helping other people has a fantastic backstory. Some people have really chunky, gross stuff.
Mhm.
And you sometimes you've got to step away and work on yourself instead of on everybody else. And that's what I had to do. I didn't have a choice. And
Yeah.
every single day that I was at home, I still wished that I could do what I love doing and also share what I was learning. But yeah, it's coming. It's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But today's one of the first steps of getting back to being able to communicate and yeah, help people with my story, which is what we all do, isn't it? That's the magic that's really inside of us. It comes from a place of I've been there, I've done that, I've got the Girl Guide badges to prove it, and now I'm going to be able to help you because I already passed all those like initiations
Yeah.
and I evolved myself, and now I'd like to help you do the same. So, yeah,
I think it's really important too, because I think the first thing that most people think is there's something wrong with them, or there's something wrong. And it's like, it's great for other people to hear the stories, to go, oh, I'm not alone. And
yeah,
it's almost like what's coming through now, it's almost like it's an initiation part of life where we get through all the different, I don't want to call it levels, but different stages. And the thing is that there is no end. Like, it's a continual process. And particularly now where we're moving to, where the veil is very thin and we've got access to so much more, the initiations are getting more and more.
well, yeah, if what you're talking about is consciousness, which is unlimited, isn't it? It's always expanding and evolving and never ending.
Yeah.
So I guess, if Earth is going through a transformation, sorry, buddy, you've got a massive anchor that's weighing us down. You're going to have to work on that.
Yeah.
And I mean, COVID was a massive eye opener to a lot of people because they stopped busying themselves and running around doing a million different things, and they had to just sit in all their stuff. And it's like, whoa, I'm depressed. Hang on a second. What's all this? So I believe that actually a massive awakening happened there as well. For me, I was isolating leading up to that. And when COVID happened, suddenly it was like I wasn't the only one in the world that was going through what I was going through. Suddenly, everybody else has to isolate. Everybody else has to
Wow.
be afraid all the time. Everybody else is like, just like living an abnormal life. Whereas for me, leading up to that point, I'd already been experiencing that every single day that I had no control over. So in a weird way, it was healing for me knowing that other people are experiencing a similar kind of um, weird energy that I had been going through personally because of, the chunky stuff that I needed to work on. Just those, lower vibrations. If you want to get up to those higher levels, you've got to work on the dark stuff. And
Yeah.
you don't even know that it's there. Then obviously one day it's going to slap you in the face. And that's pretty much what it did to me. And I'm so glad to be at this stage where I can talk and, um, you know, hopefully move in the direction of helping people again and sharing my stories, just like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And hopefully someone gets something positive out of it, because there's a lot of not perfect people in, the spiritual world. We're all doing our best. We've all got like really good intentions, but not everybody's perfect. If you take a moment to get to know us, then there's probably a lot you don't actually know.
I think that's really important to say as well, is that it doesn't matter how spiritual someone is, they're still human, and we're still going through, things. And I think also it's an important message for ourselves to realize that we also are not perfect and we're allowed not to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like
I
that's a
mean, if we were all
conversation.
perfect, then we'd probably have wings and, like be somewhere a lot more fabulous than this, wouldn't we?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And that's the thing that I've noticed a lot coming up in conversations this week is the concept of normal. And, people are still carrying that concept of what normal looks like. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but every time I look at it, I'm not seeing normal as a thing anymore. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's a great place to be for humanity, to be out of that concept of normality and what is normal. I think a lot of people still judge themselves in their lives around what they consider normal, but once you look at it, it's actually not a thing.
Yeah, we try and embrace the weird in my family and make our
Oh,
kids very aware that weird is not a bad thing. Weird is unique. Weird is different because we are weird. Absolutely. When you look at, what normal looks like, we're not in that category. I think also a beautiful thing that's happening is the awareness on autism, because those kids have come in and said, this is me. You're going to adapt your world to
yes,
me, not the
yes,
other way around. I'm not going to
yes,
live in your world. You will change who you are to adapt
yes,
to me coming into it. And
yes,
you see the most beautiful, compassionate, loving families around them. And I just think that that's an interesting shift that's happening, like awarenesses on topics that maybe people weren't aware of before, and also maybe not as accepting. There's definitely maybe a shift towards a bit more compassion, which would be lovely because
yeah,
it's a rarity,
yeah,
especially with people who are struggling with mental health stuff. It was definitely something that was not necessarily something I saw in the last 8 years. I didn't necessarily see a lot of compassion coming my way. It was there in sprinklings, but just having that awareness of just be kind,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
that hard instead of judgmental.
yeah, yeah. And also, I always say, again, if you look at things like judgment and non-acceptance and all that sort of thing, using that inner GPS to go, okay, that doesn't feel good to do that for other people. So it's just not relevant. But then also on the other side, what you resist persists, like I think as we're moving more into acceptance of people, situations, things like that, we're going to start to see so much change in lots of different ways, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. When people say, oh, doom and gloom, everything else, I'm like, I'm just not seeing that. I'm just
Yeah,
not
same.
seeing
So
it at
I just
all.
don't engage in those conversations. I'm like, no, I've already done doom and gloom. I'm ready to tap out where, like I'm ready to check out of that energy. So I
Yeah.
know where I've been personally. It only makes sense that something good has to come next because I've done my time with all the negative.
I was watching the film Lucy. I love that film. I think even though it's a science fiction movie, I think there's a lot of um, relevance to where we're going for humanity. I mean, they do talk about, I don't know if you've seen it, but they talk about the
No,
expansion of consciousness and the use of the human brain. If you haven't seen it, see it. It's on
no,
Netflix.
yeah.
Lucy, right? Very, very good film. Anyway, to cut a long story short, it's where she has this drug put into her, which allows her to have 100% brain use of her brain. Because you know how they say that we only have use 10% of our brain. So with each percentage of, let's just call it consciousness or use of her brain, she has new things happen to her that she can do. Amazing things, right? But she has access to infinite knowledge. And she says to this guy who teaches this theory, because she's now the living proof of the theory, I've got all this knowledge. What do I do with it? And he said, there is no greater purpose than receiving knowledge and sharing it. And I'm like, that's actually a really cool way. A lot of people go, I don't know what my purpose is. And I'm like, that kind of covers everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It really does. And again, like I'm seeing when we're moving into this new future, we're not so much, again, the labels of what it is, it's more the theory behind it and how it's a blanket statement for everyone. So that, again, everyone's got different things going on and everyone's got different lives, but what they do with it is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So very, very cool. Now you've got some other cool stories that you want to share with us. You did talk about another meditation event where you saw your grandfather.
Yes. So I used to go to a spiritual group since I was a teenager. And one evening we were doing a meditation, and all I remember, we got taken up into the clouds and the stars and everything. And yeah, I ended up having this older gentleman pop in and who wanted to communicate with me. And he wouldn't show me his face, but he was making himself known to me like he was important and gave me kind of like this loving energy. And that evening, when I went back home and I told my dad about it, I said, there was this man who, is somehow connected to the family. He wouldn't show me his face. And he goes, oh, that's interesting. And he goes and gets this black and white photo and he says, was this him? And I was like, oh gosh, that looks a lot like, his build and everything. And he said, that's my father. And he
Mm.
actually pointed in the front of the picture. My dad was a few years old, black and white image. And he said, I don't have many pictures of him because he actually had a facial deformity and he refused to have his photo taken
Oh,
for years. And he actually passed away a couple of years before I was born. So I never knew him, I never met him. But yeah, it was just a spun out little story of
yeah, yeah.
from meditation where he popped in.
How interesting. And I love it when, as psychics, we get information and it's about translating it and how, he actually had this not wanting to show his face in spirit as he did
Yeah.
in real life.
Yeah, yeah. And the fact that that identified him, I thought it was an unusual
Yeah,
thing to happen,
yeah.
but of all people, I went home and I talked to my dad about it, which isn't very normal for me to talk about spiritual
Ah.
stuff going on with my dad. but it was like I was led to him, and then he put the pieces of the puzzle together. Yeah,
Oh,
very
love
interesting.
that. And again, like it just shows how things all fall into place when you just follow the nudges and you just do whatever, happens and you just go with it. So yeah, that's so
Exactly.
cool. But especially when we get message like when we're working with people and we get messages and for people from the other side and just the symbolism of how they want to get their message across, we have to understand what they're trying to say and the way that they're trying to say it.
Definitely.
And usually it does relate back to our life somehow. So it's very, very cool to kind of decipher all of those messages.
Yeah. I get songs when I would do healings on people, sometimes songs would come through and I would always relay whatever I was seeing or picking up on because it might not mean anything to me, but it does to that person. I've had,
Yes.
like a song come through and I relayed it to a healing client and they were like, "Oh, that's funny. I'm actually planning a trip to Africa." And I was singing a song about the rains in Africa or something. So I often have music come through.
Yeah.
I've had imagery come through. I did a healing in the UK on someone, and this kind of like almost triangular pattern came through, and I had different symbols for different people. And then when I drew it, that person was like, "Oh, that looks really interesting." And I said, "Oh, it kind of looks a bit Celtic or something." It was these 3 points. And
Mhm.
then 2 years later, we're in Scotland together, wandering around, and then go up to a market stall, and I'm like, "That's the symbol. That's what I saw when I did that healing on you." And it's called a triquetra.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, apparently connected to his Scottish ancestry. He was actually Scottish
Mm.
in Scotland, and there was the symbol that I'd seen connected to him during the healing.
So crazy. I love it. Sometimes we are like those investigators, that are trying to put a puzzle together of, what it all means. And one thing I do notice is you can't go into trying to work it out.
Yeah, don't
You've
think
just got
about
to
it.
you've
Just let
just got to let it
it
all
come through.
unfold how it comes through. So you've actually done a really cool healing that you want to talk about.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. I actually communicated with the lady yesterday. So I probably only added her on Facebook maybe about 5 weeks ago, just randomly came across her name and I thought, "Oh, I'm sure that's that lady that I did the healing on." We didn't know each other prior to her booking in with me. So this is 2010. I did a reading for her, and her and her husband were trying to get pregnant. They'd been trying for 3 years with IVF and had multiple failed pregnancies and had even had a miscarriage, but I didn't know all of that side of things. She just wanted to know, do you see any children in the future for us? And when I was communicating with her yesterday, asking her, "Is it okay if I share the details during our chat today?" And which she okayed, and she said, "You were really spot on." And she actually posted the reading, and the very first thing that I say to her, "Yes, I do see children in your future. I see a boy and then a girl." And then I go into more details about it. So when we reconnected about 5 weeks ago on Facebook, one of the first things she said was, "Yes, I remember you. I remember that reading you did for me. It was amazing and really spot on. I did end up having kids, etc., etc." But yesterday, I actually found the healing that she booked in after we'd done the reading. 3 days later, she had a healing with me because in the reading, it brought up the actual issues with her conceiving a child was more on the emotional side rather than physical.
Mhm.
And I did a healing for her. And so in the reading, I say, I actually was going to recommend someone else, but she ended up booking in with me for the healing. And as I'm sitting there doing this distant healing on this woman, I'm suddenly aware of this presence of this male energy come into the room. And I'm like, "Okay, what's this?" Because I'm kind of writing notes down as I'm picking up on things. And I'm like, okay, so we've got Master Jesus here, not something that had ever happened before, or not even something that I'm really into necessarily. And I was like, okay, so we've got Master Jesus here. He's going to perform the healing with me. And we were focusing on like the cells in her body and flooding her with unconditional love. And then I heard the words, "This one will stay." And I was like,
Oh,
okay. And of course, my notes are brief, but I'm saying that was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. To this day, I've never had that happen ever again. So that was the she had the reading on the 3rd of April, and then I think it was the 7th of April that we did the healing. She then goes for a round of IVF, becomes pregnant, and gives birth to a little baby boy in December. And then she's told me yesterday, oh, and then I had the girl. And I was
oh,
literally in tears reading the reading again, because literally the first sentence I said to her, you will have children, you will have a boy and then a girl. And yeah, it's still like a lovely story. Whether you
beautiful.
believe in it and that kind of thing, it doesn't really matter. That's what happened. And like I said, it wasn't really something that I was necessarily into. I just went with it in the moment because I was like, okay, this has never happened. I'll just trust and believe. And all I'm going to do is allow this to happen and send her as much love as I can and reassure her that you can have a child. There was a lot
Mm,
of history connected to loss of children and things like that. She just
wow.
needed, I believe, she just needed someone to tell her, you can do this. Your body is actually fine, and
Mm,
you will have that child. And I guess because I was specific and said boy, then a girl, even though we were complete strangers, that it just shifted something in her mind, and she then that belief change then allows the healing to happen. And then, yeah, she's got her beautiful little family now.
that's amazing. And I just think too, like, again, if we try and work out how all these things happen, particularly when we do a remote work and distance work and things like that, a lot of it we can't understand how it happens. It's like it just has to do its
Yeah,
thing, do its thing. A lot of people will go, "Oh my God, you're so amazing because with the distance healings that I do." And I'm like, you just don't really, it's not really us doing it.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's
You're allowing
something,
it to happen. Yeah, yeah,
or the facilitator of it, but it's not us doing
yeah,
it. Like we're not
yeah,
actually doing, to be honest, I don't even think we do the hard work. Like it's all working with some other type of energy which helps to
yeah,
facilitate the healing. And I think again, I don't really even need to go into the hows or the whys or anything. It just happens, and it's something. Again, this is why these
yeah.
stories are so cool, because it's a thing.
Yeah, I think it takes a level of trust and knowing yourself, like, and also knowing your intention. Like if you're opening up and you're like, let's do the best that we can, like opening up to, I believe, consciousness, because consciousness is an energy of thought that can create change in the physical body. So you're kind of acting like the middleman of like, I'm going to go grab some stuff for you, I'm going to bring it back, I'm going to hand it over to you, and then you're actually going to do the work. You're the one that's going to change the way that you feel, and your thoughts and your consciousness is going to change. You're going to lighten up, which then gets rid of all the boggy, crappy energy. And then you feel better, and then you'll be healthier, and then you'll, have things move out of your path and you go towards success. That's personally my experience with it, is opening up to consciousness. And then I guess with the Master Jesus thing, whatever those words mean, whether it's a human, a person, or I don't know, like a type of energy or frequency vibration that I accessed. Again, I was just the middleman
Yeah.
between the person that I was intentioning healing for and that to come through. And then she then thought different thoughts, which created the healing. and then she expressed herself differently, which then resulted in her going and having the exact same treatment she'd already been having, but this time something was different in her, which then created the miracle where she could hold that child and not let it go, and continue to have those thoughts where I'm keeping this one's staying with me.
I think that's also why I love these stories and the experiences. Like, if someone doesn't even necessarily need to have the experience of the trusting and the knowing and everything else, if they've seen it happen for someone else, then they're like, oh, that's
Yes.
possible.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like that monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah,
If you've seen a miracle happen and it's something unexplainable, then
yeah.
it does create that change where you go, okay, I think that that's possible. I think that that's kind of the realm that I used to live in. Was I'd seen so many unusual things that anything was possible, and then that allowed me to do anything and everything because there was nothing in my mind that was like, that's not real or that can't happen. So I was lucky like that. I need to get back to that way of thinking, but it's reminding me actually of an experience I had after learning Reiki 1. So at that time in my life, I was about 19 and in a very toxic domestic violence, abusive relationship, and had a lot of physical issues going on in my reproductive area. I'd been told I needed keyhole surgery, and I was like, I don't really want to go and have surgery. I'm not really into the whole medical side of things. And I was just like, I need to figure out a way to heal myself. And I went into a bookstore in Bunbury, and this little pink book literally leapt off the shelf. And I picked it up, and I'm like, Reiki, I feel like I've heard of that
Oh,
before. And I read the back, and I was like, this sounds exactly like what I need because this allows me to heal myself. So when I booked on for Reiki 1, while I didn't have a life-changing experience after the attunement, I was kind of sitting there going, is anything going to happen? When I left this woman's home to walk back to my place, I came out the front of her house and over to my right, there was like a neighboring property with this big tree, and I could hear this buzzing noise. And I was like, what is, there was literally a swarm around this tree of, I guess, the sound that bees would make, like a vibration, but there was so many of them all around this tree. And when I looked at them, I was like, it was a massive swarm of dragonflies.
what?
And yeah, I had red Indian medicine cards, and I knew that dragonflies were illusions. I get a lot of messages from nature. And so there was this unexplainable event happening as I'd come out of my Reiki 1 attunement. And knowing that dragonflies meant illusions, I was like, there's a lot of them. This is something that I probably would never see again in my whole life. And people probably wouldn't even believe me if I said that there was a million dragonflies all around this tree. And so I was like, okay, well, what in my life, what am I missing? What's the illusion that nature's stepped through and gone, you need to be aware that there's something going on? And whether it was that experience or the Reiki 1 attunement, I went home and I started seeing my situation almost like from a third person point of view, where
Yeah.
I could clearly see the way I was being spoken to, the chaos that was going on in the house. And I remember thinking, surely you can do better than this. Like surely there's someone out there that will treat you better than this. And that combination of having like a life-changing event with the dragonflies, as
Yeah.
well as the Reiki attunement, which would have filled me full of light and hope for the future, and okay, now I'm going to be able to heal myself, etc. Within 2 weeks of that experience, I'd left the relationship, moved back to
Oh,
Perth, moved back in
wow.
with my parents, and yeah, life began to improve.
Isn't it funny?
Mm.
Like,
Yeah, I there was a
just,
lot of nature stuff coming through during that period of my life when I was in that relationship. I had walking through an industrial area, and like a monarch butterfly just comes and just lands on my arm as I'm walking to work. Just like little things, I guess because of the headspace I was in, I was very, very depressed and kind of, ready to tap out and like get
Yeah.
out of here. Like this isn't working for me. And nature kept coming through like in a loving way to go stick around, like it's gonna get better. And
Mm.
yeah, I would have butterflies dive bombing my car when I'd be driving, just little things, whether that was, spirit coming through, whatever you want to call it, something was trying to wake me up to like better feelings and the magic of life, and go,
Yeah.
this is the world, this is the reality. You're
Yeah.
just in a bit of an effed up situation. That's not your future. That's not forever. That's not like all that you're worth. And
Amazing.
yeah, I've had quite a few little experiences like that over the years of nature just kind of stepping in and go, no, stick around, like you're special. It's okay. This is momentary kind of thing. I mean, we're
Yeah.
all special. I'm not trying to say that I'm special, but it was
Stop it.
there was
You
something going
can.
on that was
Yeah.
like otherworldly
Yeah.
to snap me out of my zombie state of like, get me out of here kind of thing.
I think that's a really good example. And this is the thing I do find talking to a lot of people, particularly in my circles, where they say, I don't really feel like I'm being supported by the universe or what have you. And it's like, and then they'd tell us stories around things that have happened. You're like, that's literally what it looks like.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
and it's like, oh, I think again, this is why these stories are really important because, we can go our day in, day out without actually noticing the magic that's actually happening. And
Yes,
the
I
more we
agree.
talk about it, the more we will notice that,
Yeah,
we are supported by something, again, whatever anyone's belief is. And, one of my other clients, she calls them glimmers, just little glimmers that come in and just like, again, give you a little bit of hope
yeah,
that there is something else
yeah.
there that's
I
helping us.
I believe so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that I learned from a young age, because I went into that first domestic violence situation when I was 18. I learned from a young age to look for those things, to
Oh,
look for
wow.
something to give me hope,
Yeah.
something to, I don't know, make me believe in something magical, that I was being protected, that I was connected to something bigger than the shitty situation I was in. And so yeah, I don't think I would have got through many things, especially like the last 10 years, if I didn't have those pivotal moments in my life where something unexplainable and amazing and mind-blowing and like, what? If they hadn't have happened, then, like I wouldn't be able to believe that I could get better and I can heal and I can move on and I can get out of this horrible energy, unless I'd had those little bits of magic along the way. But it is so important to, it's about your perception. Like, look for even the tiniest grain of hope. Look for the tiniest little thing. And that's what I've done literally every single day for years now, is even if it's just a random stranger being kind, like letting you in front of them, or even just turning around and talking to you and having a nice conversation. Like, I literally would grab hold of anything like that and go, oh, I must be giving off a better vibe. I must be, people are wanting to engage with me again. I must have healed something for them to want to have that little random interaction with me. Like, it's so important if you're in a dark space, or if you're really struggling with, some heavy stuff, just look for the magic everywhere you go, even if it's random to other people. If it means something to you, then you should
Yeah.
definitely grab it, hold on to it, and go, yep, this is my proof that something better is coming, or that I'm worthy of more.
I think that concept should be adopted. If that was adopted by everyone on the planet, then we would have a different planet, right? If people were constantly, looking for the signs and the things that are coming through, saying that the world is still great, and still magical.
Yeah, it is. If you unplug from daily life and your phone and your work and all of that, you can see it and you can feel it. That's why people have all these beautiful experiences in nature, because that's what nature literally
Mm.
vibrates with, is like calm, connection, peacefulness,
Yeah.
centeredness, grounding. And yeah, I mean, I was kind of forced to unplug from the world for the last nearly 10 years. And so I really paid attention to everything that was happening, and
Amazing.
um, yeah, I've learned a lot of important things. And I guess my hope and my drive came from not only the memories that I have of the things that I've already been through and got through, and those magical sprinklings along the way, and the cool stuff that happened when I was teaching and sharing my work, but also just like having the ability to tap into my traumas, and sit there and listen to my body and listen to my unconscious and my subconscious and hear what it had to say. And, like there's so much growth that you can go through if you just stop what you're doing,
Yeah.
put some time aside and go, right, okay, here I am, I'm showing up. What do you have to tell me? What is it that I need to know? But so many people spend every single moment of the day busying themselves. They put more on their plate, the calendar's full, and that makes them feel like they're achieving things. When actually, if you slow down and you stop and you just take a breather for a minute, you're going to suddenly go, oh yeah, there's that thing that was actually really important to me once upon a time, and I totally forgot about it because I've just been swept up in the rat race. And yeah, there's a lot of beauty in amongst all the steaming pile of crap. There's, the little bits of sparkles and glitter and a few little
Mm.
diamonds in there. You just got to stop and have a bit of a dig through.
I think that's the thing, where we're all guided and we're all, helped on this journey. And again, like, I think a lot of people don't feel that way because, there is that busyness of life that there is no time to acknowledge it. I even have to say myself when I miss things as well. And if I didn't have the whisper in my head saying, Kim, it's happening, I wouldn't actually see it as well. So again, like I'm not, someone who picks up every single little whisper that comes through, but I get reminded that it's happening, which is, again, I just
Yeah.
thank God every day
You're
that
kind
I
of
do
in
have.
both worlds at the same time, but that's awesome though. The fact that you've kind of set up a program where I'm going to live my life, but I'm also paying attention. Whereas a lot of people live life and they're not paying attention. You're able to do both at the same time, and that's the best way. I think that's the most fun way to live, because you're always listening in each moment. When you meet that random person or you have that random experience, something pops in and you're like, oh, like I love
Yeah.
living like that.
Again, I think our feelings will tell us when there's something like that story I told you about the podcast that I was doing this morning. And I think
Yes.
those feelings tell you when magic's happening.
Yes. Yeah,
It
yeah.
feels so good. Like even now,
Yeah.
this feels very magical having this conversation. And it's like again, wow, we don't really know what we're actually doing, but we're just doing it. And again, us having a conversation will probably help other people, but we're just enjoying
Yeah, I
having
really
this
hope so.
conversation. Yeah. So
Yeah, I really hope so. That's why I'm here. Haven't done anything like this in 10 years, and
I'm very
I just
honored that you've
decided.
chosen me to
Oh, I'm very
have
honored
your
that you
opening.
asked me. Yeah, it was obviously meant to be, and your beautiful, joyful spirit is what I connected with. And I was like, just do it. And yeah, hopefully someone gets something out of something that we've talked about,
I
hopefully.
definitely think you've brought up some really cool things that will help people. So thank you so much. We'll
I
finish
hope
on
so.
one last story. Have you got anything that you want to finish up on?
Hmm. Gosh. Okay, I'll tell one last story. My beautiful boy Kaizen, he's my oldest son. He visited us. We were living in a place called Bedford, saw a giant blue orb in our lounge room, and I'm thinking, oh, it's Archangel Michael. I didn't know I was pregnant, but we were visited by this big, beautiful turquoise orb. Wasn't your nails turquoise today? We were talking about your nail polish, As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, the turquoise reference.
Turquoise. Wow.
Because we nicknamed him Turkey, just turquoise, like when I was pregnant. But while I was pregnant with him, he was communicating with me psychically, and
Oh,
I was a bit wounded. I kept triggering people while I was pregnant, having like conflict going on around me, and I was getting quite wounded as to what was going on. And he kind of psychically showed me this vision. Um, and said, those who cast the brightest light, those who shine the brightest light cast the darkest shadows. And it was like his light that was growing inside of me was almost like, the vibration was doubled. And so it was kind of like triggering people around me to react
wow.
to that in a negative way. And then, so that was one experience to make me feel better. But then he showed me a future vision as well of him holding my hand, walking me down the aisle at my wedding. And there was grass and there was like ocean in the background and there was like a bit of a hill. And he was walking me down the aisle and I had this strapless electric blue wedding dress on. And I remember seeing it all and just going, cool, blue is my favorite color. And I'm like, I'd never probably wear a wedding dress like that, but that's pretty cool. Fast forward to I've given birth to him. We move to Queensland. We're still traveling around Australia. We end up at 1770, decide to get married randomly on 11/11/2009. And we get we get shown this venue by a friend of ours. Sorry, I fast forwarded. We arrive at our friend Michaela's house. She welcomes us in. She's showing us around her house, and I'm telling her, "Oh, we just decided on the drive here we're going to get married on Tuesday." It was like Friday at that time. I said the date's 11/11, so we're going to try and make it happen. And then I start telling her, "Oh, when Kaizan was in my belly, he showed me getting married in an electric blue strapless wedding dress." And her face just froze and she took us into her bedroom. She pulls out this kind of like a Celtic ball gown, strapless, electric blue, huge big dress. And she said, I just bought this from the op shop the other day, had no idea why I bought it, but I just felt like I needed to get it. It was
No.
ridiculously cheap. It was like $60. And I was like, that is uncanny. We only just decided to get married, and you've gone and bought the wedding dress. And that's the dress that I ended up getting married in at 1770, at a place called Destiny's Doorway with dolphins swimming in the background. And I walked,
No.
oh, and my son had only just learnt to walk. And so the vision of him walking, holding my hand, it all came true. So like three
On the
years
grass
later,
overlooking the ocean?
I came down a grass hill to the beach and there was the ocean in the background with the dolphins.
Oh
Yeah,
my
crazy.
God.
There we go. That's a
Oh,
good one to finish on.
I've got full body goosebumps. That's
Yeah, I got goosies too.
amazing. Oh my God. Life is actually so magical.
It is. I can't wait for it to get even more magical.
Well, as they're saying right now, get ready, like stroke one.
Good, good. Yeah, I'm ready.
It's literally and again, like through stories, that you've told and things like that, it just helps us to really understand and embrace the magic that's available for all of us. So I'm super, super, super grateful for you to be here and have this chat
Thank
with
you.
me, with us. And look forward to many more chats in the future and catch ups, and let's see what happens. That's my favorite phrase.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you so much for having me. I
Right.
really appreciate it. Thanks,
Oh,
Kim.
my
Lovely to
absolute
meet you.
pleasure. See you
Bye, everyone.
soon.